"Get out of my house, David. We're done. I don't want to see you here again when I get back." Those were the words my wife screamed at me on a Tuesday evening in March, standing in our living room on Palisade Avenue in Brentwood, California, holding a bottle of Dom Perignon in one hand and a man's hand in the other. Her name was Victoria. We'd been married for 11 years. And in that single moment, everything I thought I'd built meant absolutely nothing to her. I remember standing there in complete silence, my hands at my sides, watching her face transform into something I didn't recognize. The woman I'd spent over a decade with had become someone entirely different. Her eyes were cold. Not angry. Cold. There's a difference, and that coldness was somehow worse than any rage could have been. She wasn't in pain about leaving me. She was relieved. She looked at me the way you look at something you've been meaning to get rid of for months. Not with emotion. With finality. What happened in that moment is what psychologists call the sudden clarity cascade. It's when a person realizes with absolute certainty that they are not actually loved by someone they've built their entire emotional life around. Not because of a single betrayal, but because they understand, finally, that they were never truly seen by that person at all. I felt it move through my body like something physical. A weight. A cold current traveling from my chest down through my legs. I was a financial analyst at Mercer Capital Management downtown, a respectable position, steady income, the kind of job that paid well enough to make Victoria feel secure. But what nobody knew, what Victoria herself had long stopped caring to know, was that I'd been running something else in parallel. Something that had started as a side project 7 years earlier and had quietly become something substantial. Very substantial. Under my mother's name, registered as Crawford Financial Strategies, I'd been consulting for tech startups and emerging companies. Small deals at first. Due diligence work. Financial modeling. Things that came through referrals I'd made before I married Victoria. Over time, the work had grown into something I barely recognized. Clients in 5 states. Transactions worth more than some small corporations. By the time I understood what it had become, I'd already decided I would never mention it to my wife's family. They'd made it clear enough, in clear enough ways, that they considered me secondary. A husband who was useful, but not impressive. Someone who'd married into their world rather than someone who'd built a world of his own. The money from Crawford Financial stayed separate. The LLC stayed in my mother's name. I kept building quietly, the way I did everything. While Victoria made breakfast and complained about her meetings, while she scheduled parties and planned vacations, while she talked about her ambitions and her dreams, I was in my home office at midnight, sending financial reports to clients, analyzing spreadsheets, building something she would never know existed. It wasn't a secret so much as it was a project. A very particular kind of project. 3 weeks before that Tuesday evening, Victoria had landed what she was calling the biggest deal of her career. She was an executive at Elevate Consulting, a firm she'd started with 2 business partners 5 years earlier. They'd grown it slowly, carefully, building client relationships one at a time. But this deal was different. This was the one she'd been waiting for. A $33 million contract with Nexus Global Solutions. $33 million that would change the trajectory of her entire career. I was happy for her. And I meant it. God help me, in that moment, I genuinely meant it. I'd gotten home early that afternoon, not expecting anyone to be there. But I could hear the champagne cork from the hallway. The laughter. Her laughter. Bright and open and full of something like joy. It was the kind of sound I hadn't heard from her in so long that it took me a moment to recognize it as coming from my own wife. I stepped into the living room and saw her there in the navy blazer she saved for important moments, the one that made her look like everything she'd ever wanted to be. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup was flawless. She looked successful. She looked powerful. She looked happy. Standing beside her was a man I recognized from the firm's holiday party. Marcus Hale. Strategic advisor. Expensive suit. The kind of confidence that comes from never once doubting you belong wherever you are. His hand was on the small of her back. Not friend low. Not colleague low. Something else entirely. Something that suggested a familiarity that went deeper than professional. She saw me and the brightness cut off like a light switch. She didn't say congratulations or honey or I'm so glad you're home. She said, congratulations on the deal, Victoria. And her response was the one that stayed with me for the rest of that day and every day after. Corey, I want a divorce. She said it the way you announce a quarterly decision in a business meeting. Clean. Final. Already decided long before this room, long before this evening, long before I walked through that door. Marcus didn't move. He just stood there with a small, patient smile. The smile of a man who'd been waiting for this particular moment. Waiting for this woman to finally do what he'd been suggesting she do for months. I went to the bedroom to pack. My hands were steady, which surprised me. I pulled a duffel bag from the closet shelf and moved slowly through the motions, gathering clothes, gathering the small things that had accumulated over 11 years of marriage. And then something fell out from between a stack of old documents on the shelf. A folded piece of paper. Ariana's handwriting. The date at the top. More than a year ago. Call attorney after $33 million deal closes. Need to prepare separate asset strategy if David makes things difficult. I read it twice. Then I sat down on the edge of the bed and let that sink in. More than a year. That meant she'd been planning this since before I even knew about the Nexus Global deal. She'd been building her exit strategy while I was still bringing her coffee in bed on Sunday mornings. While I was still planning our anniversary. While I was still believing that we had a future together. That's when I understood something that changed everything about how I was going to move forward. She didn't just decide to leave me. She'd been planning it systematically. Which meant she'd been investigating something. Which meant she knew about Crawford Financial. And if she knew about Crawford Financial, then everything she was about to do made a very specific kind of sense. She wasn't leaving because she'd stopped loving me. She was leaving because she thought she could take everything I had while I was too shocked to stop her. I folded the note carefully and put it in my jacket pocket. I finished packing. I could hear her and Marcus talking softly in the living room, the sound of their voices drifting down the hallway like something from someone else's life. I walked out of the bedroom, past the living room without turning my head, and out the front door into the cool March evening. I didn't look back. I spent that first night at my father's house in Pasadena. My father, Raymond Crawford, had lived in the same modest house on Orange Grove Boulevard for 32 years. The same porch swing that needed fixing since the early 2000s still hung there, creaking in the evening breeze. He'd always said a creaking swing kept you humble. Standing at his front door with a duffel bag and no real plan, I finally understood what he meant. He opened the door before I could knock. He'd seen my headlights from the window. He didn't ask a single question. He simply stepped aside, went to the kitchen, and made us both a cup of tea with too much sugar, the way he always did. We sat at his old kitchen table under the overhead light that made everything feel a little warmer than reality, and I told him everything. Every word. Every detail. The marriage. The business. The note. All of it. He listened without interrupting once. When I finished, he wrapped both hands around his mug and looked at me the way a father does when he's choosing his words like tools for a delicate job. Don't let anybody make you feel small, son. We build things on respect, not on who makes more money. That was all he said. But in that kitchen at that hour, those words reached somewhere deep inside me that had been frightened and confused. Then he set his mug down and cleared his throat. There's something I should have told you sooner. About 5 weeks ago, Victoria's brother called me. He was asking questions about whether you had private investments, accounts outside your Mercer salary. I didn't answer him, but the way he was asking, David, it wasn't casual. They were looking for something specific. And they were looking before that deal was even signed. I sat very still. 5 weeks ago. That meant Victoria's family had been quietly investigating me, mapping my finances, looking for weaknesses, while she was still wearing her wedding ring in public. While she was still texting me from business trips saying she missed me. While I was still thinking we had a marriage worth saving. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Her name was Patricia Chen, Sharp as a blade, no patience for softening language. I told her everything. The marriage. The business. The note. The timeline. She listened with the particular focus of someone who'd heard this story before, just with different names. Here's what's going to happen, she said. Your wife is about to file for divorce. When she does, she's going to claim that your income from Mercer is the only legitimate income you have. She's going to claim that Crawford Financial is either a fabrication or a side business with negligible value. She's going to ask for a settlement that reflects only what she can see. And if you don't have documentation, if you don't have a clear paper trail, the court is going to believe her version because her version will be the only one that's officially recorded. But here's what she doesn't know, Patricia continued. She doesn't know that you have records. She doesn't know that you've been careful. She doesn't know that Crawford Financial isn't some cash-under-the-table operation. It's a legitimate LLC. It has contracts. It has invoices. It has a 5-year history of documented income. I need you to pull together every single piece of documentation you have. Every contract. Every invoice. Every deposit. Every client agreement. Build a timeline. Show the growth trajectory. Prove that this business exists independently from your marriage and that it predates her knowledge of it. That evening, I opened my laptop and started pulling threads. Old emails from clients dating back 7 years. Financial records from Crawford Financial. Consulting documents. Contracts signed with my name. I found emails I'd sent to my mother explaining the business structure. Emails from clients referencing work I'd done on specific projects. A paper trail that, when examined together, painted a very clear picture. Before I did anything else, I thought back to a Saturday 8 months earlier. Victoria's personal assistant, a quiet woman named Dana, had texted me to say her work laptop had crashed and she had a Monday deadline. Victoria was out of town. I drove over to Dana's apartment in West Hollywood and fixed it in about an hour. She offered to pay me. I told her not to worry about it. It was just the kind of thing I did. That night, around midnight, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. 4 words. She thinks you're broken. Don't make this easy for her. I stared at that message for a long time. I didn't recognize the number. But something in the phrasing made me pause. It was the kind of thing someone sends when they've been watching from very close range and have decided it's finally time to speak. I filed it away. I had enough to deal with already. By 3 in the morning, I had compiled everything. A complete financial history. 12 years of consulting work. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in legitimate business income. Proof that Crawford Financial was not a secret hidden from Victoria. It was simply a business she'd never bothered to learn about because she'd never bothered to ask about my life in any meaningful way. That was the moment I understood something crucial. Victoria hadn't left me because she'd fallen out of love. She'd left me because she'd convinced herself I was worth less than she needed him to be. And when you believe someone is less than you need them to be, it becomes very easy to take what belongs to them. My father came into the kitchen around 3:30 a.m. He saw the look on my face and said nothing. He just put one hand briefly on my shoulder and went back to bed. That was all I needed. I closed the laptop. I sat in the stillness of that old kitchen, the refrigerator humming, the porch swing creaking faintly in the wind outside, and made a decision. Not revenge. That was never in me. But I was done being invisible to the people who'd spent more than a year counting on my invisibility to protect them. 3 days after I left Palisade Avenue, my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. The voice on the other end was measured and unhurried. The voice of someone who had made very consequential decisions for a very long time and was no longer anxious about any of them. Mr. Crawford, my name is Victor Morrison. I'm the CEO of Nexus Global Solutions. I believe we have something important to discuss. Victor Morrison. The man whose company had just signed the $33 million contract with Victoria's firm. We agreed to meet the next morning at the Ivy in Beverly Hills. I arrived 10 minutes early. The restaurant was quiet and exclusive, the kind of place where conversations don't carry to the next table. I sat by the window and watched the street below. Palm trees. Expensive cars. Normal, quiet, safe. I held on to those things the way you hold something you don't yet know you're about to lose. Victor arrived exactly on time. Tall. Silver at the temples. Dark wool coat. He shook my hand briefly, sat across from me, and placed a manila folder on the table between us without opening it. I'm going to be direct with you, Mr. Crawford, because I believe you've earned that. He opened the folder and pushed it toward me. Inside were photographs. Time-stamped messages. Hotel lobby records from Beverly Hills, from Malibu, from a business conference in San Francisco that Victoria had described to me as strictly client-facing. 3 days ago, Nexus Global received an anonymous email. It contained documentation of a personal relationship between Victoria Crawford and Marcus Hale, the strategic advisor who represented Elevate throughout our negotiation. The relationship appears to have been ongoing for approximately 6 months, overlapping with the entire contract period. I had suspected it in that quiet cellular way that married people sometimes know things before they're ready to name them. But seeing it documented, time-stamped, printed, inarguable, was its own particular weight. Grief and confirmation arriving in the same breath. I closed the folder and set it back on the table. "I'm sorry," Victor said, and he genuinely meant it. Not performed sympathy. The quiet acknowledgement of a man who recognized the terrain. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and set a small digital recorder on the table. There's something else. A secondary recording was included in the same communication. Our legal team has reviewed it carefully. The person who sent this email was a direct participant in the call, which under California law makes the recording lawful. We've been advised we can use it as context for a governance review, though not as evidence in any legal proceeding. What matters today is what it establishes about intent. He pressed play. 40 seconds. Marcus Hale's voice filling the quiet restaurant. Confident. Casual. The voice of a man who believed completely he was speaking in private. Once the deal closes, we handle the financial analyst cleanly. I've got someone watching his accounts already. If we need to, we ruin his reputation at his company. Get him discredited before the divorce goes public. He won't have anywhere to stand. The recording ended. The room was very quiet. I made myself breathe slowly. I made myself set my hands flat on the table. I made myself look out the window at the palm trees below, grey and moving, indifferent and steady, until the silence in the room settled back to something I could sit inside without breaking. Then I looked back at Victor. They had a coordinated plan to neutralize you professionally and financially before you could respond. The goal was to make sure you entered the divorce proceedings with nothing to stand on. He paused. "Mr. Crawford, we know who you are. Both of who you are. You are David Crawford, Victoria's husband, and you are also David James, the senior consultant retained by Nexus Global through Crawford Financial Strategies LLC, registered under your mother's name. You analyzed Elevate Consulting Group and issued the formal approval that put this contract in motion. The anonymous email included more than photographs. It included your name, David James, Crawford Financial Strategies, cited as the consultant who approved the Elevate deal. Once we had the name, the LLC search took our team 40 minutes. The methodology in your reports matched work our senior analyst had seen under that name on a prior engagement 4 years ago. Everything confirmed. James and Associates came onto the Nexus roster 6 months ago, long after it now appears your wife had already set her other plans in motion. The opportunity arose independently on Elevate's side. You happened to be the consultant already on our retainer when their proposal crossed our desk. He looked at me steadily. That is either the most painful coincidence I've seen in 30 years of business, or the universe has a very particular sense of order. You analyzed your wife's deal. You approved it. And in doing so, you placed your name on every page of her greatest professional accomplishment. The irony alone could break a man. But what you did next is where this story actually begins. I have to ask you directly, Mr. Crawford. Do you want us to cancel this contract? He held up one hand before I could answer. I also need to be transparent. Given the conflict of interest, you cannot serve in a consulting capacity at tomorrow's meeting. Our legal team has been clear on that. The due diligence you completed stands entirely on its own record. But I want something different from you. I want you in that room as the author of the work Victoria is about to see on that projector. Not to argue a case. Not to consult. Just to stand next to what you built and let it speak. The disclosure is on record. There's nothing improper about a witness being present at the review of his own work. I looked out at the palm trees below. I thought about the note in Victoria's handwriting. I thought about the voice on the recording describing how they planned to destroy me. I thought about 11 years of marriage built on a foundation I was the only one maintaining. Part of me wanted to see it all collapse. Every dollar, every press release, every congratulatory message from her family. That part of me was real. I won't pretend otherwise. But I had learned a long time ago not to make permanent decisions on behalf of temporary pain. I turned back to Victor. Part of me does want to see it fall. I won't lie to you. But Nexus Global deserves to make this decision on real business grounds, not on my grief. The work I completed was honest. That distinction is yours to make, not mine. Victor looked at me for a long moment. Then he set the folder aside and let out one slow breath. Can you be in Dallas tomorrow? I looked at him across that quiet restaurant and said the only thing I had left in me to say. Yes. I packed one bag for Dallas. My father's watch. One good shirt. My laptop. The flight left LAX at 6:15 the next morning. I watched California disappear into the clouds and let myself feel fully and completely everything I had been holding at arm's length for 4 days. Then I folded it away neatly like a letter you keep but no longer need to reread. Tomorrow, Victoria would walk into a boardroom and find me already seated at the table. And the name on the most important pages in the room, the pages that had made her deal possible, would be mine. But before I got on that plane, I made a decision about who I was going to be in that moment. I could have walked in angry. I could have walked in victorious. I could have walked in with the satisfaction of a man who'd been wronged and was about to watch the person who wronged him finally understand the cost. But that would have made me no different from Marcus. That would have made me someone who used information as a weapon. Someone who valued their own vindication more than they valued the truth. What I wanted instead was something more complicated and more powerful. I wanted Victoria to see me. Actually see me. Not as a supporting character in her story. Not as the invisible man who'd been so busy building things she'd never know about that he couldn't even see what was happening in his own marriage. I wanted her to see the man who'd been there all along, doing the work, making the decisions, approving her deal. I wanted her to understand that she'd built her greatest professional accomplishment on a foundation that belonged to me. And I wanted her to understand that I was choosing, in that moment, not to destroy it. My father called me at the airport. I wasn't planning on answering. But I did. He didn't ask me where I was going or what I was doing. He just said, "Son, whatever you're about to do it from a place of truth. Don't do it from a place of pain." The two look similar from the outside, but they lead to very different places. I thanked him. I hung up. I got on the plane. The Nexus Global offices occupy the 41st floor of a glass tower on McKinney Avenue in Dallas. Floor-to-ceiling windows. The city spread below like a blueprint of ambition. A conference table long enough that you have to lean forward to see the other end. I arrived at 9:45 in the morning. Charcoal grey button-down. Good slacks. My father's watch on my left wrist. Nothing more. I took the seat Victor indicated near the center of the table facing the door. I folded my hands in front of me and waited. At 10 o'clock exactly, the conference room door opened. Victoria walked in wearing the navy suit. The tailored one she'd bought for important moments. The one that made her look like the CEO of a company that was about to land the deal of her career. Her portfolio was under her arm. Her posture was perfect. Her stride was carrying the full authority of a woman who expected every room to receive her on her own terms. Marcus Hale followed a half-step behind. She was already extending her hand toward Victor. Smile assembled and professional. When her eyes traveled the length of the table and landed on my face, the smile did not fall. It froze completely, like a photograph taken at exactly the wrong moment. 3 full seconds of absolute stillness. Her hand suspended in the air. Victor mid-reach. Marcus pausing behind her. The court reporter's stenography machine ticking softly in the corner, indifferent to all of it. What happened in those 3 seconds is what psychologists call a schema rupture. The moment reality fails to match the mental model a person has been operating from. She'd walked in carrying a story. She was the CEO. This was her deal. David was someone she'd already managed and moved past. In 3 seconds, every part of that story collapsed at once. Victor moved smoothly as though nothing unusual had occurred. Miss Crawford, Mr. Hale, thank you for making the trip. Please sit down. They Saturday. Victoria chose a seat diagonally across from me. She did not look at me again. Her jaw was set. Her expression carefully managed. Nearly successful. Except for the leather portfolio pressed flat against the table beneath both her palms, holding something steady that wanted very much to tremble. Victor opened the meeting without ceremony. Before we move to business, I want to make one introduction. This is David James, Senior Consultant with Crawford Financial Strategies LLC, retained by Nexus Global throughout the evaluation and approval process for this contract. He was the primary analyst on the Elevate Consulting due diligence report. He's here today as a witness to the integrity of that work, not in a consulting capacity. Our legal team has noted the conflict of interest and it's on record. He won't be speaking to the business case. He'll simply be present while the board reviews the documentation. He paused. David James is also, as some of you may now be piecing together, David Crawford, Miss Crawford's husband. One board member set his pen down carefully. Another shifted in her chair. The court reporter's machine kept ticking. Victor picked up his remote. The projector came to life. On the screen, the full due diligence report. 47 pages. And there on the cover. On the executive summary. On the financial risk assessment. On the leadership evaluation. The name David James with my signature below it. Page after patient, deliberate, invisible page. Victoria had built her departure on the belief that David was peripheral. A supporting character at most. Those 47 pages said something no argument ever could. He was never peripheral. She just wasn't looking. Victor advanced to page 31. Leadership risk assessment dated 3 months prior. He read aloud, his voice calm as a man reading weather data. The CEO's recent decision-making reflects possible influence from a personal relationship with a business partner. Recommend follow-up governance assessment prior to final contract execution. The room was very quiet. Victoria's eyes moved from the screen to me slowly as if the motion itself required effort. I held her gaze. I did not look away. I did not offer anger or apology or comfort. I simply looked at her the way you look at someone you once loved completely and honestly. And that fact alone was the heaviest thing in the room. Victor clicked to a new screen. A video call recording. Split frame. Timestamp from 3 weeks prior. The board has reviewed the following recording received through the same anonymous communication. This will be played in its entirety. He pressed play. Marcus Hale's voice filled the room. Confident. Casual. The voice of a man who believed completely he was speaking privately. After the deal closes, we pressure him to sign whatever papers we need. If he refuses, we move to plan B, damage his reputation at his company. I already have someone positioned. Once he's discredited, the divorce settlement writes itself. He won't know what hit him. 38 seconds. Then silence. Watch Victoria in this moment. When Marcus's voice fills the room, she doesn't look at the screen. She looks at Marcus. What crosses her face isn't the anger of a woman caught in someone else's scheme. It's the recognition that she was never a partner in this plan. She was its instrument. Marcus hadn't been conspiring with her. He'd been conspiring through her. Using her ambition. Using her marriage. Using her career. And somewhere in the last 6 months, she'd stopped being his partner and started being his pawn. Victoria turned and looked at Marcus slowly. Completely. With an expression I had never seen on her face in 11 years of marriage. Not fury, but something colder and more devastating. The look of a person who has just understood with full clarity and in front of witnesses that the man beside her had never been building something with her. He'd been building something through her. Around her. Eventually entirely without her. One of the Nexus attorneys spoke evenly. Mr. Hale. Given the content of this recording and the undisclosed personal relationship maintained throughout the negotiation period, Nexus Global is asking that you remove yourself from this meeting and from any further representation of Elevate Consulting Group in this matter. Effective immediately. Marcus started to speak. Stopped. He looked at Victoria once. Searching for something. An alliance. A lifeline. Any signal at all. She did not look back at him. He stood. He buttoned his jacket with the deliberate care of a man trying to preserve the last fragment of his dignity. He walked to the door. It closed behind him with a soft, clean click. One empty chair. The court reporter's machine kept ticking. Even in collapse, the performance continued. Ariana sat for a moment with her hands flat on the table. Then she straightened her spine. I watched her physically collect herself from the inside out and turned to Victor. What are Nexus's conditions? Victor outlined them without ceremony. A full independent governance audit of Elevate's contracting process conducted by a third-party firm of Nexus's choosing. A formal written termination of Marcus Hale's involvement with any Nexus-facing work, effective immediately. And Victoria's personal cooperation with the compliance review as the signatory CEO. Then he added one more thing. You may choose to step back from day-to-day operations during the audit period. Some CEOs find that useful. Victoria listened without interrupting. 2 precise, professional questions about the audit scope and timeline. Then one single nod. I'll accept your conditions. The board began to rise. Gathering papers. Exchanging quiet words. And in the middle of all of it, Victoria and I were the 2 still points in a moving room. She looked at me just for a moment. Her eyes were dry but barely, held there by sheer will. I held her gaze for one last second. Then I gathered my materials, said a quiet word to Victor, and walked out into the hallway. As the elevator doors slid open, I caught one last glimpse through the glass wall of the conference room. Victoria sitting alone at the long table. The projector still glowing with page after page of a report I had written months before my marriage ended. My name. My work. The invisible foundation of a celebration that had been built without knowing I was in the room. The doors closed. I breathed. Just breathed. 30 minutes later, a single knock at the small conference room where I was waiting. Victoria stepped inside alone. No portfolio. No professional armor of any kind. Just her in the navy suit with the collar slightly undone, reduced to her actual human size. She stood in the doorway for a moment. Then she held up her phone briefly, just enough for me to see it. I called my attorney from the hallway before I came to find you. She set the phone face down on the table as she Saturday. I told her to withdraw the original settlement offer. I told her to prepare something fair. She folded her hands on the table. I want you to know I didn't do that because of what just happened in that boardroom. I've been moving toward it for 2 weeks since I found what Marcus had tried to sign away behind my back. That was the moment I understood what I'd actually been building my life around. Not freedom. Not ambition. A man who saw everything in my world as an asset to be extracted. Including me. Including my company. Including you. She looked at me directly. I wanted you to know it was my decision. Not consequence. Not legal pressure. Mine. I sat with that for a long moment. Outside, Dallas glittered in the midday sun. Indifferent and radiant. There was a version of this moment I could have used as a weapon. The irony of it. That she'd protected herself from Marcus using something I had given her while simultaneously using a plan designed to leave me with nothing. That irony had edges. I could feel them. But hearing her say it cost me something. Not anger. Something more complicated. The particular grief of recognizing that the best of what you gave someone was still working inside them, protecting them long after they had stopped protecting you. I let that feeling move through me completely. Then I set it down. I don't want to destroy you, Victoria. I never did. I just need you to understand what you threw away. She absorbed that without deflecting. She let it land all the way to the floor. After a long pause, she spoke. 2 months before the deal closed, Marcus came to me with paperwork. Restructuring documents, he said. Standard procedure before a major contract. He needed my signature on a few asset transfer forms. I skimmed them. I signed one without reading it carefully enough. She looked down at her hands. 2 days later, I read what I had actually signed. A partial transfer of Elevate's equity holdings into a personal account in Marcus's name. I had my attorney reverse it within 48 hours. He doesn't know I caught it. There's something you said to me years ago. Back when I almost took a partnership with someone whose books didn't add up. You told me never let anyone use emotion to take what doesn't belong to them. That's the line I heard in my head when I read those papers. That's the only reason I still have a company today. Your words were what saved me from the man I chose over you. Psychologists call this embedded mentorship. Influence so consistent and quietly delivered that the recipient doesn't realize they're carrying it until the moment they most need it. Victoria had absorbed my judgment, my values, my way of seeing. When she stood at the edge of losing everything, it was my voice she heard. Not Marcus's confidence. Not her own ego. Mine. She stood. She smoothed her jacket slowly. The way a person reassembles themselves when they have to keep going, and it's the only way they know how. At the door, she stopped. She didn't turn around. I was wrong about you. I was wrong about what quiet means. I mistook it for weakness. And I made that mistake about the one person who never once gave me a reason to. Then she walked out. I sat alone in that room for a long time. The water went warm. The skyline kept glittering. I thought about my father's kitchen table, about the cracked coffee maker, about 11 years of Sunday mornings and airport goodbyes and late nights spent building a life that I had apparently been building alone for longer than I realized. My phone rang. Lena Washington, the attorney I'd retained after my second night at my father's house. Sharp. Efficient. No patience for softening. David, Victoria's counsel, called me an hour ago. New instructions. Withdraw the original settlement offer. Prepare something fair. She paused. She said, and I'm quoting her directly, give him what is fair. He deserves it. I closed my eyes for just a moment. Fair. After 14 months of coordinated planning. After the financial investigation. After the surveillance. After the settlement number crafted to leave me with nothing. After all of it, she had arrived at last at the word fair. Fairness isn't simply a preference. It's a fundamental human need. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt something quieter and more complicated. The particular ache of a truth that arrives just in time to clarify everything and just too late to save anything. Thank you, Lena. I hung up. I put on my jacket. I picked up my bag. I walked to the elevator and pressed the button for the lobby. And for the first time since that Tuesday evening on Palisade Avenue, I did not feel like I was falling. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. The terms were fair. Victoria got the house. I got the investment portfolio I'd built through Crawford Financial. She got her company. I got my business. We each walked away with what we'd earned. The lawyers handled everything else. There was no courtroom drama. No final confrontation. Just two people who'd loved each other once, dividing the practical details of a life they'd shared, quietly and without fanfare. What I want you to understand is this. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need Victoria to suffer. I didn't need the boardroom scene to feel complete. What I needed was to understand something that took me 11 years to learn. The quiet man in the background is often the one holding the entire structure together. And when he finally steps forward, it's not because he wants acknowledgement. It's because he needs to know that his work, his effort, his invisible labor actually meant something. Here's what I'm asking you to do tonight. Find one small thing in your life that belongs entirely to you. Something you've built. Something you've created. Something that represents your work and your choice and your effort. It doesn't have to be impressive. It doesn't have to be noticed by anyone else. It just has to be yours. Sit with it. Not to process anything. Not to make peace. Just to notice that it's yours. That it's real. That no one else's opinion of it changes what it means to you. That is where real power lives. Not in courtrooms. Not in boardrooms. Not in the moment someone finally admits they were wrong. It lives in the quiet moment when you realize you know exactly who you are, and that is enough. Because when you know that about yourself, nothing anyone else can do will ever make you question it again.